Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a special day for us. This was actually the second Super Bowl he's won now. He's won a couple in the last few years.
If you're not born here, don't you talk about Fago Pop.
That's what you're aiming for. I know this is 705 for 5 you did here, but
Yeah, so that was a strongman style 18-inch deadlift.
That's why I've been combing my hair before these.
there you go.
You know, I'm all about appearance now.
Audience seeing Justin eating, I mean, that's authenticity right there. They all get it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, welcome to the show, everybody. We got Jon Heck from the Houston Texans on with us. Jon was on episode 2, but we were just chatting before about pickles. So it was an exciting conversation about pickles. I was talking about how I, during prep myself, grabbed some Famous Dave pickles and had 2 before, and luckily caught myself because they taste so amazing. When I had about 150 grams of sugar before I knew what was going on. And then Justin shared a new secret recipe out there.
Yeah, for any of you dieting out there, if you want a real true dieting snack, take some just regular dill pickles and pour a packet of ranch seasoning, the powder, you know, in little packets, and then shake it all up. I haven't tried it yet, but I saw someone talking about it. It looked amazing.
So, go ahead, Jon.
So how deep in the diet are you right now?
Who, me?
Yeah. You said you're dieting right now?
No, not right now. No, that was last year.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Right now I started, I'll use a fancy term. I'll say it's a progressive maintenance phase. Does that sound cool? Does that sound like I'm doing something new?
I like that.
It's like it's like, it sounds cool. # progressive maintenance phase. So yeah, I've been cutting down a little bit, but I need to, button it up a little more, but we've been busy.
Oh man, not me. Yeah. All this traveling. I do great at home, but it's so hard. I mean, it's not that hard. I'm just not in that full on bodybuilding brainwave where I bring my meals.
Jon, have you ever met, oh, sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I thought you were going to make, just every time we travel and do a seminar, I get comments about my fat face because I'll eat food at a restaurant. When you go from eating clean to eating like chicken wings.
Oh, yeah, you just blow up.
Yeah, and then I do the seminar and everyone's like, why would I listen to this fat ass?
Well, Jon, did you meet Brian before, our marketing director?
I texted back and forth with him. I never met him, though.
So Brian is I'm doing a diet plan for Brian, right? So Justin said snacks earlier. So if Brian's listening, he'll get a kick out of this. I'm driving, I'm talking to him about how many meals a day and what times. And he's, hypertrophy challenged person right now. So we're working on that. But great guy. And so anyways, he said snacks. I was like, snacks? I'm like, what are you in second grade, bro? Like, you don't have snacks. Like, you have meals. You're a grown man. You have 4 meals, 5 meals, 6 meals. Like, well, I'd like to have 3 meals and maybe 2 snacks. So I don't know, Jon, is that common in the NFL? Are they eating snacks?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when it comes to the physical development of athletes, the nutrition piece, I mean, that is the hardest to get guys on board with. I mean, guys don't want to eat.
I know.
I was working with the Eagles 2017 or 18, I can't remember. Whoever the strength and conditioning coach with the Eagles at the time knew me and kept sending me players, but they won't listen to anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, these guys will train hard, they'll get up early, they'll run until they puke, they will put themselves through so much, but when it comes to eating, that is where we lose guys. Whether college, NFL, all of it. That is by far the hardest part to get guys consistent with is nutrition.
Right. No, and I just for the viewers out there, if you don't remember, I think I said this earlier, but Jon was in our second episode.
And for the viewers, if it looks like Jon's at a weird angle, he actually has the tripod set to 6 feet high.
Yeah, he's 6'7", right?
Jon's
6'7". Yeah.
What are you weighing these days?
I'm about pushing 330 right now.
Yeah. Oh. You look big.
Yep. And be sure to check out What the Heck 71 on Instagram. You'll see he's a lean 330. So
yeah, that's what's crazy.
Honestly, I owe a lot of that to you, Justin. When we worked together a few years ago, I mean, that really kind of set into motion my trajectory as far as body composition. And, you know, once you dieted me down and then I rebounded, I mean, from there, I just kind of stayed in a rhythm with that stuff. And I've been able to stay relatively lean ever since then. And I mean, now I'm the leanest 330 I've ever been by far.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's honestly, of all things coaching, that's probably my favorite thing when someone, because, you know, by then you had obviously been training for a long time, strength and conditioning coach, high level strength and conditioning coach, you know, so you could talk circles around anyone training, you know, but like the diet is, even when you know the diet, even when you know what to eat, it's the easiest thing to slack on, you know. I mean, that's the first thing I slack on when I'm not really focused on stuff too. So when you have someone, you know, and because like taking them through that first fat loss phase, it's like, because it's hard, you know, and people don't know what they're getting into, you know, and I'm always afraid I'm going to lose the client. They're going to, you know, they're going to be like, fuck this is not what I want. I want to be big and strong. But if you can get them through that and then get them through the rebound and then see that they maintain that new body composition basically from then on, that's like my favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, after working with you, it really opened my eyes to how much the nutrition side of things benefited my strength and performance in general. And it's really something that I've been trying to sell to, you know, the heavy power lifters, the big strongman competitors, is if you can get your body composition right. I mean, you can be 300 plus pounds and be lean. Your recovery is going to be that much better. Your output in the gym is going to be that much better. You're gonna feel amazing. And just once that nutrition piece fell into place, everything took off for me. Strength was going through the roof, recovery was going through the roof. And there's just something about like getting that routine dialed in where your day is kind of centered around meals. It kind of just ingrains that discipline and consistency in you that really kind of transferred over to everything else for me. So, I mean, to this day, my days are still centered around meals. And if I miss one, it just like it eats away at me. Like something just feels off.
Yeah.
If I've gone 3 hours without eating, and just kind of it just getting into that rhythm, it just never left me. And then that's really allowed me to take myself pretty far. You know, back then when I was competing in strongman and just I'm not competing anymore. I'm just trying to be the biggest, strongest human I can be now. And I view the nutrition as the most important piece of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what, let me take a look at something here. Dang it. There it is. Where were you? How long ago was this? This image here.
That would have been 2020. That actually, honestly, that might have been when I was rebounding with Justin or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I feel like oh no, that was, or is that just, it says 2022 in the bottom thing, but that's what I remember you looking like.
Yeah.
There's no way that's 2022.
That might have just been when someone liked it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's the best my physique ever was, right around that time.
Yeah, what was your weight there?
That's not how most people look at 330.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, granted, I am 6'7", so I've got you know, I'm not the 330 that most of these bodybuilders are, but been able to put on some decent lean mass on this frame.
That's what I was gonna ask you. So you already mentioned strongman. So with the move to, you know, you're at UNC as a head strength coach, still doing some strongman competitions, or we're looking to get back at it with the move to the NFL now. Is that kind of just going to be put on hold, or just kind of focusing on the NFL career now?
Yeah, I haven't competed in strongman in a few years. I actually had a severe nerve injury. I badly herniated my L5S1 disc, and it just compressed the nerve, and it went untreated. We were in season at the time, and you know, getting surgery really wasn't an option for me. And unfortunately, I kind of lost quite a bit of nerve function in my right leg. To this day, my right calf is basically useless. So, you know, doing the heavy moving events for me, yoke, farmer carry, all that stuff, that was just kind of off the table. I've really spent the last 3 years just trying to get myself back up to pre-injury strength. But but yeah, and then at the same time, I was getting to a point where it was like I either need to go all in on competing, because I mean, if you're trying to be world's strongest man, I mean, that's a
Right.
full-time job. I mean, you've got to be, I mean, the eating for that is a full-time job. You've got to be, I mean, for my height, I'd have to be 400 pounds. I mean, the training sessions for strongman, you're talking about 2-3 hour training sessions. The equipment set up, you need a crew. It's not like bodybuilding where I can go into the gym and train for an hour and get a great workout. I mean, with strongman, the training itself is more like a football practice.
Yeah.
So I was kind of getting to that level where it was like, I won't be able to compete at the level I want to compete at and still, excel in my career at the level that I want to. So when I had my injury, it was kind of like, it happened at a good time because, I was, well, she was my fiance at the time, but I was headed towards getting married. I was getting older, obviously getting a little further along in strength and conditioning from a career standpoint. So when that happened, I pretty much decided that I was going to, be a coach full time, wasn't going
Yeah.
to compete anymore, and was just going to keep training and eating just because I love it,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember us talking about that. I think if I remember correctly, you were ready to compete and then COVID hit and then your injury happened after that. Is that?
Yeah, I was preparing for a contest. COVID hit. All the competitions got shut down, and then nerve injury happened shortly thereafter.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you noticed, in your training sense, kind of transitioning and, obviously we were talking before on air, you guys just moved to the Houston area, getting set up at the new job, new role, new career path here. What does your training look like now for yourself? I know we'll get into the athlete stuff, but
Yeah, I'm kind of training like a power lifter right now. I'm squatting, deadlifting, and I had an AC joint injury when I was playing football that still kind of nags me to this day. So I can't do much horizontal pressing the way I could. So flat benching is kind of out for me. So I'm training overhead press, the as if it was bench press for powerlifting. So my time to train is a little bit limited right now. I've got about hour 15 early in the morning. So getting back to my powerlifting roots was kind of the best move there, and with the time and everything that I had. The one thing for me is like I've always got to be training for something. I've got to have
yeah,
like some kind of a goal in mind. I love training, but the thing I've always really loved was pursuing strength or size, like chasing after something.
right.
So right now I'm just trying to cross off some numbers I've got on the bucket list with squat, deadlift, and overhead press.
Yeah. Let's pull this up really quick. Cause this is what are some of your numbers like with the deadlift? I mean, I know that
So
you're aiming for, I know this is 705 for 5 you did here, but
yeah, so that was a strongman style 18-inch deadlift. Best deadlift, it's somewhere on my Instagram, was 825 from the floor.
yeah. Wow.
I think I
Yeah,
saw that. There's a 3 meter bar path, I think.
yeah, it
That's what's
feels
even
like,
crazier though, is because the bar path is so long. I mean, even like you watch guys, like Brian Shaw or Hafthor, who are similar height to yours. Your bar path, because I noticed that. I pay attention to that because I love the deadlift, but I was never a great deadlifter because of bar path. Well, several reasons, but that's one of them. And it makes such a difference when you see some of the sumo pullers who are pulling the bar 4 inches, and you've got 26 inches to pull. That's all. It's
Look
you're
at,
doing 8 reps worth of distance.
I know this
yeah,
isn't the 800 plus lift, but this is just for viewers out there who can see it. You can just see the bar path, just how much more impressive that is to have that much weight at that height,
it feels like every rep lasts an entire minute with as far as I've got to pull it. But I've never used the height as a crutch when it
Right.
comes to lifting. So I think being a huge human is not a bad thing when it comes to lifting weights.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and then just kind of making that transition, is there, were there any, when you start looking at the training of athletes,
Can you
any
guys
big
hear
difference?
I'm sorry. If you see me keep looking, it's so loud in my house. I just hoping you guys can't hear that. Can you? Okay, good.
No,
Okay.
I think
I'll
we're
just
good.
find a way to block it out then.
Yeah. I got kiddos here too. That's why I always have the sound canceling headphones on, because it's just like distracting.
no kids over on my end yet. Just a huge Great Dane
There you
waddling
go.
around the house.
There you go.
So
A fitting dog.
yeah.
Those are cool. My a neighbor where I used to live had a Great Dane Bull Mastiff mix. This is the coolest dog ever. But I love dogs. I love big dogs. That was the first time I ever got the shit scared out of me by a dog. Or I was like goofing around and like chasing him and wrestling, and he kind of
Yeah.
he dropped, squatted down and barked, and it sounded like a dinosaur. And I was like, good lord. Because
Yeah.
at
The
the
great
time I had a Presa Canario myself, 140-pound Presa, so I was used to wrestling with him. But the thing was, it was like barking at my face level.
Yeah, when Mac, his name's Mac. When he stands on his hind legs, he's eye level with me.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
That's massive.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, I don't have it to pull it up, but Justin, I might have it on Instagram. Justin with his the puppy you were holding at the seminar.
The French bulldog.
Yeah, Jory's like, no.
No, I was. We got we got that stupid Chihuahua, and I'm like violently allergic to it. I've had dogs
No.
my whole life, never not had a dog, never been allergic to any dog. I don't know what it is about this Chihuahua, but it's terrible. My skin's on fire.
All right, we got sidetracked there, so which is all good, which is fun. Sorry, I was trying to find that picture of
So,
the pup.
it's on
Go
my
ahead.
most recent post, the last one. But so, how long have you been with the Texans, John?
About 5 months now.
Because you were at UNC before, right?
I was at UNC for 5 years, and then just joined the staff here in Houston 5 months ago.
My niece is dating a football player from University of North Carolina, but not Tar Heels. And I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, you might know one of my buddies. He's like,
Which
it's a different one.
do you know which school it is in North
I
Carolina?
don't. What other? There's. Are there more than two D1 North Carolina schools?
There's UNC Charlotte.
Oh yeah, I think it's Charlotte, but maybe not because I know Charlotte. This is like they've gone on 2 dates, so it was actually good that I got to embarrass them. But
yeah. But yeah,
So
had a great run at North Carolina. That'll always be home for me. But it was time this job opened up, and it was a great opportunity for me.
so you living in Texas? Do you like it?
Yeah.
How you like it?
Yeah, we love it now. It's about 105 degrees out right now. It's been the hottest 2 weeks I've ever experienced in my life. But yeah, we like it. It's a big change going to the big city from the quiet college town of Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
But no, we're loving it out here.
Are you saying y'all yet, or were you already saying y'all beforehand?
No, y'all is not in my vocabulary.
I think it took Kuklo about 9 months maybe before the first y'all snuck out.
No, one thing about Texas is the Texas natives, they take offense to those who move to Texas and then claim to be a Texan. You've got to be born and bred Texas to consider yourself a true Texan.
That's
so,
funny because you don't. It's not like like that's a kind of a cool thing about Texas, how they view themselves, because it's not like Michigan has that,
Right.
It's not like Michigan. If you're not born here, don't you talk about Faygo Pop
or Frito-Lays.
Yeah, and my wife's actually from Michigan. She's from Macomb.
That's right. Yeah, I used to live Clinton Township, right next to Macomb.
Yeah,
I won the Macomb wrestling tournament twice in high school.
But small world. But yeah, Texas is it's its own little world out here. So it's been cool to see the culture out here.
So I'm curious too, and I'm sure some people out there maybe that, we got a wide range of, audience, right? Some people that are, competing, training, whatever. Some are coaches. And so I'm curious to hear about, like, what is that transition like to go from, UNC, you played there. So, maybe a little bit more connected to the program, but how does one get recruited to go to the NFL to be a strength coach, or what does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, the hard thing about working in football is, there's not that many jobs. So the timing's got to be right. There's got to be a job open, and most of the time people aren't getting hired off of a cold resume.
Sure.
It's a recommendation. You've got a connection. You know somebody on the staff, and get in on the interview process. So it's not like I wanted necessarily to. I hadn't necessarily viewed the NFL as a bigger step or the next step for me. It's I was happy in college, and they're just two very different jobs.
Right.
In college, you're somewhat of an authority figure. A lot of head football coaches will kind of make their strength coach the disciplinarian, an authority figure, culture setter, and you've got the kids year round in college, so you've got a little bit more of an opportunity to really develop those guys. It's a little bit more simple in terms of training because you'll have the guys for 8 weeks straight in the winter. You'll have them for 8 to 9 weeks straight in the summer. In the NFL, you're not an authority figure. You're working with grown men who are being paid a lot of money. The yearly schedule is a little more complicated. With the CBA, there's a lot of rules created by the NFLPA where they can only be required to be working at the stadium for certain amount of hours, certain amount of days, certain amount of weeks. So we get less time with the athletes at the NFL level. So we've really got to make the most of the training time we do get with them. And then during the off season, there will be phases where they're also doing football practices. We've got to work around that. We're dealing with a very wide range of ages in the NFL compared to college, whereas all 18 to 21-year-old kids, and now you're dealing with 21 to 41-year-old athletes. So a lot of these guys have different levels of mileage on them. You've got to train certain guys differently than others. So things get a little more complex when it comes to the training, here at the NFL level. But it's been a good transition. I had a relationship with our head strength coach here on staff previously.
Was your wife angry?
What's that?
Was your wife upset about it?
No, she.
No, she had a relationship. It was just cracking me up.
Yeah, not that kind of relationship. No, she's been ready for the football life, knowing that we might have to pack up and move somewhere after any given season. And she was a nurse, which is a job that's very friendly to relocating.
Yeah.
So the move worked out well for us.
I got a question. Well, I don't know if it's even a question or how I'm going to word this, but I always thought it's kind of interesting is that of all the sports, there's really there's two sports where basketball and football, where the college, is arguably, especially at the top schools, is the players are as well known, the coaches are as well known. It's like college baseball. You don't know any of those players really, unless you're a big fan, until they go to the majors. Same with hockey, things like. But basketball and football. I mean, the collegiate level, it feels like it's every bit as big. It's not. The NFL is just. So massive as far as the money, going around it. But I wondered if that, because, like if you were baseball coach, like strength and conditioning coach for college baseball, it seems like it would be like a huge leap to go to the majors because it feels like that's just such a different level. But like at the collegiate level, there's so much for football. There's so much money involved, so much. So I just wondered if that felt like would it feel like the only difference was that you were coaching men as opposed to young men, or is there more than that?
Yeah, no, it's that's a good point. I mean, and the reality is that college football and basketball are the money generating sports. So, I mean, they're the sports that bring in all the revenue for the school, all the revenue for the athletic department, and football and basketball essentially pay for all the other sports. The revenue from football and basketball pays for all the facilities for the other sports. It pays for the salaries of the coaches for the other sports, the scholarships for those players. So just the fact that there's so much money coming in for football and basketball at the college level allows them to bring in, pay coaches, high level coaches to come in. Mm-hmm. So as far as the NFL versus college, in terms of like the prestige of it, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a totally different world. You'll see a lot of the best strength and conditioning coaches in football are in the college level. There's only 32 NFL teams, and a lot of the highest paid strength coaches in football are in college.
Yeah.
So
who are the top ones? I was gonna say, what's his name at LSU, and then I think Ben Herbert's up there pretty high from U of M too.
Yeah, I'd have to go see the updated salary ratings.
That's your negotiating power.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, exactly. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we now have the first $1 million salary strength coach in college. That's so awesome. I mean the salaries for strength and conditioning coaches, at least the head strength coach at big programs in college is getting pretty lucrative.
It's about time. I mean, I just thought for so long it still does. It blows my mind. I feel like of all the things football outside of the stuff you actually do on the field. I mean, even just in general, strength and conditioning is as important as anything. I mean, the fastest, the most explosive guys are the best players. I mean, you're not going to get a left tackle, a Hall of Fame left tackle who's weak, and you're not. Right. So it's like the fact that it seemed like for such a long time, strength and conditioning was treated not like, I mean, like a too far below the head coach. I think because it seems like you can make an argument that that's one of the most important positions.
Yeah, I would 100%
impact the school or the team.
It was Oklahoma State. That's what it was. Rob Glass.
Yeah. Yeah, Justin, I'd 100% agree with that. I mean, the reality is the strength and conditioning coach, they work with every single player on the team, and the players spend, of any other coach on the staff, they spend the most time with the strength and conditioning coach. Because, I mean, we're with them year round. We're with them through winter training, through spring, through summer training. We're training them in season. And the strength and conditioning staff, like I said, gets to work with every single position, not just one, not just the offense, not just the defense. And especially at the college level, a lot of the time they have a huge role in establishing culture and discipline and personality, toughness for the team. So strength and conditioning coaches are starting to get viewed more through the lens of like a coordinator, an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and then you've got your strength and conditioning coach, and now a lot of the titles are director of performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's like really easy to track because you can. How many like draft busts have there been? And I mean, and what almost always is the reason is that their natural gifted skill level was enough to excel at the collegiate level, but then when they get to the NFL and they're playing against grown men with grown man strength, and they don't make it, and it's you always hear it's the ones who don't put the time in the weight room, so it's like a clear direct, you're spending all this money on a big draft pick, and essentially whether they are a draft bust or a draft, boom, is how they, how much effort they put into their strength and conditioning and things like that. I'm trying to think of like all encompassing, because I'm thinking Tom Brady also with the diet and things like that. But that's really the difference maker. Jamarcus Russell is who he is because he came into camp at 320 pounds fat and never worked, never put any effort in the weight room. And you got a guy like Bill Romanowski, who, had no business being a Pro Bowl NFL player, probably, who was because of what the effort he put in the weight room. Well, so you're spending, a lot of millions and millions and millions of dollars on a draft gamble, and it seems like the difference maker is whether or not they're able to adapt and realize that they're playing against other people who were, standouts in college, and now they need to put the work in the weight room.
Yeah, 100%. And then the other thing is, proper training is going to elongate a career.
Right.
The longevity that can come from good quality training over the course of an NFL career. I mean, the difference between playing 4 years versus playing 8 years versus playing 12 years. I mean, that's a difference of millions and millions of dollars.
You can picture it like, was it James Harrison, Tom Brady? I mean, think of like a lot of these, long career players, and it feels like the first thing you think of them is you've seen videos of them on ESPN or things in the weight room, and that's kind of what they're known for.
Yeah, 100%. And when we work with a lot of these, yeah, when we work with a lot of these older guys, here at the NFL level, we're not necessarily training them through the lens of developing them anymore, but we're trying to build resiliency within a lot of these older athletes. And I mean, they've got so much wear and tear on them, so much mileage on them. And football at the NFL level is such a violent game. And the season is so long compared to college. I mean, we're talking about a 17-game regular season. So
you train. I mean, you think about it, you train in the absolute heat, in camp. And the first quarter of the season is the same thing in absolute heat. And then the games that determine who's making the playoffs are in the cold. And then the playoffs are in the snow. It's like, I mean, you cover every season.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, between 3 preseason games, a 17-game regular season. I mean, if you go to the Super Bowl, you're playing, 23 games. I mean, that is a long season. So, the training that these guys put in, the work with nutrition is a huge role for their ability to stay healthy, to stay resilient, durable throughout the season, to stay on the field and continue playing at a high level throughout the entirety of the season, and then for all the years of their career to follow.
Yeah, I'm curious too, like when you moved to the Texans, did you have to adopt a new or different philosophy from like the head strength coach and the overarching kind of training philosophy, or is there like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we every staff, every program is going to have their differences, different philosophies, all that. And I mean, for me, that's just an opportunity to gain new experience, to learn more, to work within a different system. All that is just more tools in the toolbox to continue formulating my own philosophies and my own programming. And so being able to work within different systems, see different programs, work under different coaches, all that. And I've had the luxury of working for some great strength and conditioning coaches and having some amazing colleagues along the way. And I've taken things from all of them. And every staff that you work on, you take some of the things that you did like, and you make note of some of the things that you might do differently. And then as the years go on, you really start to hone your own philosophies, and those continue to evolve over time. So, transitioning here into a new system, I was excited to see it, especially, coming into the NFL level where things are different just in the way that we train these guys and just in the variety of different types of ages and just the difference among the athletes on the team compared to college, just the length of the season and the setup of the off season, and the sports science side of things is huge within our program. just the analytics and everything that goes on from the sports science side of things, is huge here.
Are you guys? Sorry, I was going to ask. Like, there's 1,000 questions going through my head, so sorry if I cut you off there. Are you watching or monitoring things like snap count, things of that nature for the athletes and for the coaches, like the coordinators and all that, or is that more position coaches that are handling that, like game time type?
So during practices, training sessions, and games, our guys all wear a GPS unit that tracks them throughout the entire duration of the activity. So it tracks all of the yardages they covered. It tracks all the speeds that they're moving at. So you can see how much total yardage did an athlete cover over the course of a practice, over the course of a game. You can see of that total yardage, how many of those yards were at high speed, how many of those yards were at low speed. You could see what was the fastest velocity that player hit during a game or during a practice. And, we'll look at the volumes of yardages that guys have to get in a game that they get in practice. And we'll, use that information to program some of the volumes that they're getting running with us in our training sessions. We know exactly objectively what the demands are for each position group, what the average output is for each individual on the team in a game, in a practice, and all that is very useful information when it comes to periodizing our training, programming our training, and then also our staff and then our sports science staff will collaborate with the football coaches, and they'll communicate all that data to them. They'll work in conjunction with each other to script practices. So based on a lot of that data, will help kind of determine, how long is a given practice during the week. We'll have a high day where, it's a longer practice. We'll have low days where, practice duration is down, where some of the different drills are cut down. And then individual athletes are monitored. So if we know, hey, a certain player is really kind of exceeding their normal distances, they're really exceeding their typical load that they're getting in this practice, then they can, we can intervene and talk to their coach and have that individual back down. So all of that has really kind of come to the forefront in strength and conditioning in the last over the last decade, and especially now. So we're not, so anyway, to answer your question, yes, we are heavily monitoring everything they do.
I know this is kind of against what the NFL is trying to do now with avoiding injuries and stuff, but man, are they missing out with that GPS monitor. If you can tell how fast someone's going, you can tell how fast they go from that speed to zero, and measure the collision impacts and hits. That would be the coolest stat to see the biggest hit of a game when someone's running 26.8 miles per hour, and then in 0.2 of a second they're at zero. Because you could even create, and like an impulse, you could create a whole term, like yak, like yards after catch, where you could do like the biggest hit of the game thing. I'm inventing that. I'm patenting it right here. NFL, if you hear me and you steal this, I'm gonna be pissed. Me and my high-powered lawyers are gonna come at you.
Yeah, when I was at UNC, UNC was big on a lot of concussion research, and even when I was a player, we would have monitors in our helmets that would just measure if your head, you took a hit and there was whiplash to your head, it would measure the speed that your head was getting, jolted one way or another, and then it would basically flag you and send a notification to the athletic trainers if there was a violent enough whiplash on your head that the monitor picked up that met a certain threshold within the concussion risk parameters. So if a guy took
a player safety version of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so yeah, of course they take the player safety approach to it. I want to know. I don't want to know who, for safety reasons. I want to know who got their bell wrong.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why football is the popular sport that it is.
Yeah.
People want to see violence. They want to see hard hits and collisions. And,
Yeah, it's true.
you know,
Yeah. Especially, I mean, well, the sport has just evolved so much. This is even like 12 or 15 years ago that I remember reading the stat, but it was Sean Perriman, or Sean Merriman. Geez, it's so long I can't remember his name. Yeah, but he ran a 4.7 and he weighed 280 or something like that. And they compared it to, they said, arguably the best wide receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, ran a 4.7. And then arguably the best offensive lineman of all time, was it Anthony Munoz in the 80s? I mean, this is so long ago, we forget. So now you have players who are as large as arguably the greatest offensive lineman of all time and as fast as arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time. And you wonder why why concussions have become such a thing. Because, like people like our dads will be like, back in my day. It's like, yeah, back in your day, guys were 230 running a 5.4. Now guys are 290 running a 4.6. That's a. I have a question on training though. To not get too far off the training stuff. How individualized is your training programs? Because you have like a defensive end. It's almost his whole value is almost explosiveness. A wide receiver, obviously speed. A running back, how quickly they can change directions. And so how, because an offensive lineman needs size. So offensive lineman, I would imagine, is going to spend more time with hypertrophy type stuff. Pure strength type movements. A defensive end, you're going to want to be extremely explosive. Yada yada. How individualized do you go with the programs? Because 25 years ago, I remember even seeing U of M football programs, Michigan, and it was one program for all players. And I remember even back then thinking, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. So we will, our three main groups that we'll divide the team into are going to be our bigs, our mids, and our skills. So the bigs being offense and defensive linemen, the mids being linebackers, tight ends, some running backs, and then the skills being wide receiver, DB, quarterbacks. So across those three main groups, they're training differently than each other for sure. And then within those groups, within the bigs, for example, some of the defensive ends will train differently than the defensive tackles, because the defensive ends, they've got to be rushing the edge. Speed is going to be a bigger necessity for them. They might sometimes be dropping into coverage in the flat, things like that. So based on some of the specific demands of individual positions, even within those bigger groupings, there will be modified training to accommodate those demands. So the quarterbacks will have different modifications, geared towards shoulder health, because they're throwing. Like I mentioned, the defensive ends, even though they're grouped with the bigs, the big men, their training will be slightly different just because of some of the higher demands for speed and dropping into coverage compared to the offensive linemen, the defensive tackles. And then, when it comes to our field work, the bigs are going to be trained very differently than our skill guys. With our skill guys, there's a huge focus on, top end speed, sprint mechanics, and just, with them, they're running routes 40 yards downfield. With our offensive linemen, they're essentially playing in a phone booth. So when it comes to a lot of our speed development stuff, that's where you'll see a huge difference in the training. And then within the weight room, like you said, we're going to load our big men heavier and differently than we do our skill guys, who their biggest priority is the field work. And then within the weight room, we're really, for them, going to put a bigger focus on explosive movements. Whereas with our big men, like you said, we've got to put just a lot of grown man size and strength on them. So yes, the program, it has to be built around the demands of each position. And then within all of that, there will be certain just individuals who the programming is different for them. Some of the guys who are, if a guy's been, he's a 12-year veteran compared to a young guy who's in his second year, they will probably be training very differently than each other. So it will always be very individualized to the needs of the position and then the needs of the individual.
And then generally in those sessions, like a couple questions, but one that comes to mind is, so the bigs come in, right? Like how many strength coaches are there related to how many players there are with all that unique training that has to take place, you know?
Yeah, so we here in Houston we have 6-man staff. In Carolina we had a 5-man staff. In college you're in D1 you're allotted 5 full-time strength and conditioning coaches. But we've got 6 here, and everyone will have their different responsibilities. And then we've got a big performance staff. We call it our performance staff. We've got strength and conditioning. We've got sports science. We've got nutrition, and then we even have a return to play department who works with a lot of the guys coming off of injuries. So just because there is so much need for individualization, and guys who are coming off of specific injuries, they're all training differently than each other based on the nature of their specific injury. All the position groups are training slightly different than each other. Older guys training different than young guys. So we've got a big staff here. It's all hands on deck, and everyone's got a significant role.
That makes sense. My other question is just curious, because I looked at, it was a little unfair because I helped out with our football program here, then I coached with some of the little bit lower level, but I'd always look at body type for different schemes I was running a defense. The kids didn't know, but it was like, all right, in this situation we're going to do this coverage and this blitz package or whatever. So I got a little too OCD with it, but it was a lot of fun. My question is, when a new defense coordinator comes in, right, new philosophy, I mean, I'll give an obvious one. It probably doesn't happen in the NFL, but like DNs or versus outside linebackers on stand up D end or hand in the dirt is generally a different technique, body type, etc. At least in generally. But my question is, if there's a different philosophy coming in, new coordinator, does that affect the training based on how they leverage those positions at all? Or is there a lot
Yeah. So I mean, the example you used actually is the one that most comes to mind for me. Some of those more kind of hybrid positions, like the defensive end, where in some schemes, like you said, like 4-3 defense, they're going to be a hand in the dirt defensive end versus a 3-4, where they're kind of that stand up outside linebacker who's going to have more responsibilities and pass coverage. We will train them somewhat differently. If a guy's going to be a hand in the dirt, traditional defensive end, we might not put as big of a premium on. Well, I don't want to. We still are going to train. We do need them to be fast still. I mean, all these defensive ends are some of the biggest freaks on the field.
They are.
But
they're all fast. They're those blow my mind. Because I played Division III, not real football, but I loved it, and that's what I played, defensive end. And I went to the mass combine that they offer to everyone, at Ohio State, and they the numbers for to be prorated for defensive end, and this is even in 2001 whenever I graduated, were 6'5" or taller. They wanted a 4.7 or faster. And you think, that's outrageous. Those guys are just freaks. No, it's I just think that's the coolest position when you got guys running 4, 5, 6s at 260 pounds and they're 6'8". And
the defensive end, to me, that is the freakiest athlete ever. I mean, just if you see some of these guys, they don't even look like humans. I mean, they look like aliens. Just as big as they are, the physiques they have, as fast and explosive as they are, and just their ability to bend.
Yeah.
And just the fluidity that they move with. It's incredible. So, I mean, that's why offensive tackles are such an important position, because they have to block those guys.
As I always say, not that I know anything, obviously, but it seems like if you can get a stud left tackle, you have 16 years you can build an offense around. Because your quarterback's going to be safe, the weak side is going to be safe, I don't know. I don't have names off the top of my head, but it just feels like over the years watching teams that draft a really good left tackle, it's like they set themselves up for a decade of better than they had previously been performance just with that one position.
100%. I mean, football is a passing game. I mean, the NFL, it's a quarterback league. And because it's a passing game with a premium for quarterbacks, teams need pass rushers to go get the quarterback. And because they're paying all this money and getting all these freaks to go rush the passer, they need someone to block those guys. So the offensive tackle, I mean, that is a huge important
unsung
piece
hero
for a team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live that life. So,
yeah, I mean, you can imagine any like Hall of Fame quarterback, their whole career, you know, like their whole career, it could have been like Joe Theismann when Lawrence Taylor blew his knee out. You know, you get any Hall of Fame quarterback, put him in with a shit left tackle, and that in season one he's very likely concussed or, you know, some blindside hit, and it could end his whole career. I mean, how important that position is, I think, is they don't get paid enough, I guess, is what I'm thinking. But
yeah, 100%. I mean, and if you have a good offensive line and your quarterback has time to sit back there, I mean, you can take an average quarterback and give him the opportunity to play beyond his capabilities because he's not having to scramble around, because he's not feeling the pressure, because he can sit back in the pocket, read the defense more. So
yeah,
having a
6-second
good
read is a totally different play than a 3-second read.
Right.
100%. So, I mean, the offensive tackles now, I mean, you look at offensive tackles in football in this day and age compared to what they were, you know, certainly in the 80s, 90s. I mean, they're incredible athletes too. I
Yeah.
mean, these
How quick
offensive
they are.
tackles, yeah, I mean, they're, you know, 6'6", 300, you know, 315, and I mean they can move like a ballerina.
Yeah.
I mean, they're lean, they're fast, they're quick. So I mean the athleticism relative to size in football now is it's insane to see.
Yeah, I think that's a really underrated position, especially like a weak side tackle. Is, you know, just you're playing against, because like you said, with the defensive end and the freaks, you're playing against basically a LeBron James type person. You know, a very tall, very explosive, very big, very quick player. You know, who's getting paid $30 million to try to hit the quarterback. You know, and you have to be quicker than him in reverse, backwards. You know, while he's running forwards.
Yeah, and
you can't hold them.
Unfortunately for the offensive tackle, you know, if you play 80 snaps for a game, you can shut him down 79 out of 80 of those plays, but he gets one sack on you, and then that's all anyone sees. It's the one sack.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
What about, I'm curious about the combine, like how or player you know, rankings, etc. How involved is the strength staff at the NFL with that, and their involvement with like the combine and those measurables?
Yeah, with draft, do you play any? How much of a role do you play in the draft?
Yeah.
So I actually I got here after the combine had happened. I got here right after the combine, so I cannot yet speak to experience at the combine, but we will have a lot of the leading up to the draft. There will be a lot of player visits at the stadium for guys who, you know, the team could see themselves as potentially drafting in the first few rounds. A lot of those guys will come on a visit, and they'll go through a physical screening with us on the strength staff. So we'll basically put them through a basic movement screening. We'll jump them on a force plate, which is going to basically measure any asymmetries they have from limb to limb. So they'll stand on a plate, and they'll put their hands on their hips, and they'll do a series of different jumps and stick the landing. And the plate measures the force that each limb is putting into the ground as they jump, and then measures, you know, the force they're putting into the ground limb to limb as they land.
That's awesome.
So, you know, guys coming off who maybe they had an ACL a year ago or whatever, we know that information coming in. So we'll get them on the force plate. We'll see, is there still a major asymmetry with their movement screening? We'll pick up on any big deficiencies or deficits that they have, whether it's strength or mobility. And all of that information will get passed on to the coaching staff, to the front office. And then one of our coaches on our strength staff, he's our director of speed development. He will actually watch footage of the combine footage of the 40-yard dashes, and he will do a deep dive analytics breaking down their 40s, not just looking at what was the actual speed, but looking at their mechanics. We'll use sprint mechanics as a big diagnostic tool for just looking how does an athlete move. You can really pick up on deficiencies and asymmetries and red flags with an athlete by watching them sprint.
The speed stuff is interesting, I think, because it's not, I guess, new, but it seems newer. Like as a kid, you would associate like sprint coaches with track and field, but now that's like, you watch the guys run the 40. And they're clearly trained, and I can think, I think Jimmy Lamore, who used to be at Elite, does that. Justin Kavanaugh, I think, specializes in speed and agility work, like basically track work for non-track athletes. I think that's really interesting because you can see, like all the things, like the first steps looking at the ground, they're not coming all the way up until however many strides. And that's like really interesting, like how well trained they are with that now. It's so that's so important. You run a sub 4.3 and boom, your draft status is as high as it's going to get. It doesn't matter what else you do.
Yeah. Speed development, that is a huge component of our program. Really any NFL strength and conditioning program, the speed development side of it is huge. Just the game of football has become such a fast game. You look at like the linebacker position with all these spread offenses and the nature of offenses, you're not seeing the big run stopping Ray Lewis 250-pound middle linebacker anymore. Now you're seeing the 220, 230-pound linebacker that runs a 4.4. And has to cover the Travis Kelce's of the world, these elite tight ends.
It's another freak position. Those are another freaks also.
Yeah. So just with the way that the game is trended, just the way these offenses are, all these positions have to be so much faster. And because of that, the speed development side of things, there's such a premium on that. So you'll see a lot more strength and conditioning coaches who are coming from that, that speed background or a track and field background. So a lot of staffs will kind of have their speed guy on staff.
Was that a hard adjustment for you coming from, work the line and more strongman, powerlifting? Was it a hard adjustment, or was that kind of something you had built into your education as you came up?
That's something that, when I was a player myself, things were not quite what they are, in this day and age, as far as, the strength and conditioning programming, especially with the speed development end of things. But just through, school, I majored in exercise physiology, and then just I always knew I was going to go into strength and conditioning. And then just over the years, kind of knowing that the speed development side was going to be my biggest weakness and the biggest area that I was going to have to learn about. That's been an area over the last 5-6 years that I've probably spent the most time researching, studying, learning.
You were doing, I can't think of his name now, but you were doing YouTube or Instagram videos. They were really well done with the speed guy, weren't you? God, were you still doing those?
You're thinking of the barefoot sprinter.
Okay.
So
I feel like there was another one though. I should have thought better before I spoke up, because I'm trying to think. It felt like there was you were doing a tandem one. It was about a year ago. I haven't seen one in a while, but I should shut up because I don't have it well thought up. That might be who it was, but
no, it's exactly who it was. It was the barefoot sprinter. We did some collaboration videos with his videographer on Instagram, and we put out some good content together.
You're like, I'm trying to tell you it's not him. You're like, shut up, dude. I know.
It's crazy how much having a videographer and just like a really high quality video, how much that just changes the impact that any content you put out has. So we go ahead.
Well, it sucks because your views aren't really content or value based, to a large extent. But you can't falter it, because you can picture yourself, you're scrolling through reels, the one that are going to catch your eye, that you're going to watch, are the ones that are going to catch your eye, and the ones that catch your eye are the high production value. You know, you can have the greatest information ever for whatever you're interested in, but if it's blurry and fuzzy and not scaled to 916, then you're going to scroll right past it. You know, it's
100%. And I can't remember the exact stat, but there was research showing that, like, as you're scrolling through the Discover feed, you have like X many milliseconds for
like
for a
0.3,
video to
yeah.
0.3 milliseconds for the video to catch your eye, but before you just subconsciously scroll past it. I mean, and the reality is, if you're doing marketing, if you're ultimately trying to sell a product and you're using social media as a tool to do that, I mean, you've got to get with the times when it comes to.
Yeah. Video quality is more important than video content. Uh-oh. John
Speaking
froze.
of video quality, we got a little freezing.
John looks baked.
His eyes are half open right now.
Keep this in. This
Keep it
is
in.
the stuff that people want, the stuff they don't want.
This is the good stuff. This is the good stuff.
The stuff people don't want to see is what they want. No, it's true with the video, though. I mean, that's why I've been combing my hair before these.
There you go.
You know, I'm all about appearance now.
And he's back.
Sorry about that, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's all good.
Internet
the little mouse on the wheel needs some food. That used to happen to me.
Something like that. I don't know. This Texas heat must be melting the internet,
Melting
the router. Yeah.
We'll wrap up. We'll make sure we get this in. I got the hold on. There goes my mouse not working now. Let's talk about
because I got the live stream in 20 minutes.
Yeah. No, I just figured, like, this, the cool experience for the family, right? So
oh yeah.
Everyone watches that. People who know nothing about football, everyone knows who wins the Super Bowl, or if they're sober enough by the end of the game. But
yeah. So that was a pretty incredible night for the Heck family.
That's cool.
Good deal, man. Well, congrats. That had to feel pretty cool there.
Yeah.
So what else?
I like how
some serious hardware now.
The location on the post says Super Bowl. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the football life comes with some fun perks sometimes.
Yeah.
So
football, that was my first love for sure. I wish. I'm 5'10", not especially exotically athletic, so I didn't get to go very much with it. But there's nothing I've ever done like competitive wise that's even come close to as enjoyable as football. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, any other sport I played, I just absolutely loved the sport of football.
What was your combine bench? I remember that was pretty impressive. I remember back in the day.
40 at the like the mass one. I mean, because I did some private tryouts too. I know I did 43 reps at one, 40 at one, and 41 reps at another one.
Yeah, that's up there. If this is,
I ran a 4.68. I had a 36.5 vertical.
4.68.
Yeah.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that was a private tryout for an AFL team. I was in the 4.7s, like pretty deep into the 4.7s everywhere else. So I don't know what happened that day, but that's the one I go with. I think that I think the electronic thing wasn't right or something, but because I never run under like a 4.76 before, I think, but whatever. That's what they consider it official. But yeah, I tried out for the Grand Rapids Rampage, Calgary Stampede back then, and then the combines. But yeah. But ultimately, I was 5'10". Doesn't matter how strong you are, or 5'10.6" was the exact number.
Great numbers, Mr. Harris, but you're still 5'10.6". We thought you'd grow during these
you play
drills.
defensive end, and you're not 6'6", and you're not 270, and you don't run a 4.4. If you needed to bench press someone, you'd be good. They actually had me try to run routes like as a fullback, because I did like play a couple short yards. I had like 6 touchdowns. I would only go in short yardage, because like a 4.7 at the Division III level from a guy who was 250 or 260 pounds is pretty fast. And so I would just kind of close my eyes and just run forward. They just direct snap it to me. It wouldn't even be a handoff. No risk. But they had me run a couple of routes, and it was embarrassing because I dropped the balls. My routes were like rounded, and but whatever.
Yeah, the fullback's kind of a dying breed these days.
Yeah.
With
running back even.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some great running backs, but there used to always be huge, like big name running backs. Like across, like 10 of them across both divisions, both leagues or whatever. But now there's hardly any. It's just such a different sport. Such a different sport than 20, 30 years ago.
So
yeah. Well, any future plans in the near future? What do you got in the works? I mean, obviously, I would imagine a whole lot of football, but what do you have these next couple months, John? What do you have that you're looking forward to?
Well, we've got about we are in the most relaxed part of the year right now. We just finished up our off-season program, and the players finished up their OTAs and mini camp a couple weeks ago. So they're just doing, we've got like a staff rotation where a few of us will be holding a work optional workout for any guys that are still in town. But most of the team, they're on a break, they're out of town. The coaches are out, they're on vacation. So got about 2 more weeks to relax here. And then training camp starts, and then it is football until the
February,
end of December.
Hopefully.
Yeah, February, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
So we've got about two weeks here of my wife and I getting to actually spend time together, and then after that, the mistress that is football comes back into my life.
Yeah. You couldn't have picked an uglier mistress, but smells like a locker room.
Yeah.
About 300-pound dudes, but
oh yeah, being out this Texas heat for training camp, it's gonna.
Oh man,
yeah, that's the other thing because you can play in the snow in pads without with no sleeves, or like you can play in a blizzard with just your pads, your helmets, and your pants, and it's not the most comfortable, but like as an offensive lineman, no one wears sleeves really, and then to wear that same stuff in 105-degree heat, it's like wearing a snowsuit while doing sports in the 100-degree heat.
Yeah, I know it's going to be brutal. I mean, some of these offensive linemen will lose 15 to 17 pounds in a single training camp practice.
Oh, wow.
That's insane.
So yeah, you're walking off the field, and it sounds like you're walking in a puddle. There's just sweat squishing through the tops of your cleats, and
your toes are all wrinkled.
Yeah,
like soaked.
Good stuff. Well, hey, thanks
for sitting in.
I just want to clarify because we're going to get in the comments. Anytime I mention, I know I played Division III. I wasn't a real football player. Just every once in a while, I'll mention that, and someone in the comments has got to dog me. Like, oh, you thought you were? No, I know. I know I wasn't real, but it was fun.
Yeah, but you're an All-American Division III.
Yeah, but it's still Division III.
I'm going to make it worse for the comment section. Justin,
two-time All-American.
I'm going to. I stand corrected. 2-time All-American. We'll make sure we cut the reel out.
It's like 2-time Special Olympics.
We'll edit it where it says I didn't play real football. I'll edit it to where it says I played real football.
Yeah.
And then it'll say 2-time All-American Division III. and then we'll put that out there and see what kind of comments we get.
Playing against kids. One kid had crutches on the field.
All right. Well, hey, man, we're really glad you're able to join us, before it gets crazy. And we're looking forward to having you back on in March to celebrate the Super Bowl win.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be an exciting episode. So stay tuned for all of our listeners and viewers out there. But
yeah, from a personal standpoint, it's cool as hell to watch like your path. I'm a fan. I loved working with you when we did it. It was, almost 5 years ago, I think now. It was in 2019. But whatever. I've been a fan ever since, following you. It's so cool that you're up at the NFL level now, and I hope you just continue moving up with the success. It's awesome to watch. Couldn't have been a better guy. I mean, just really, really good dude.
I appreciate that. And it's been awesome to see First Detachment, just everything that you guys are doing, just becoming so much bigger and more prominent. I've always thought that you guys are the absolute best in the business, the best in the bodybuilding world. So, exciting to watch you guys continue to grow.
Yeah.
And
I wish we could get a NFL foot in the door. We could explain to them how diluted field rations is better than Gatorade as a sports drink in game. An alternate I have it designed an alternate version of field rations that's lower carbohydrate, doesn't have the essential amino acids, and has a little bit different electrolyte complex. And we even have like a research study on the website, but it's better than Gatorade. It's a more advanced version of it.
Well, I've actually, you know what? Let me talk to our head dietitian, and I'll text you offline here. I don't know. That might be able to be made into a reality.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, good deal. Well, thanks again for joining us, and everybody out there checking out 1D Talks. Be sure to like, subscribe, notifications, do all that fun stuff. And just a reminder too, we'll be on all your audio platforms as well. And we'll have this episode out there. We'll share it with you as well, John. So thanks again, man. Best of luck, and enjoy the next couple weeks with the wife, and then it's onward and upward from there.
Appreciate you having me on, guys.
If you guys are ever visiting her family in Michigan, I'm not too far from Macomb, but we'll make Justin drive. He can drive the 3.5 hours. So let us know if you ever want to train with some old men and fix us.
Oh, yeah, I'll come. Speaking of the high quality video, I have a really good video camera. I can video you guys training.
Video, yeah, it'll be a good comic.
I'm trying to keep up with John. John's still in the thick of it. He would work me over hard.
I don't know. I saw that 315 bench video you put out today. That bar's still moving pretty good there in the old garage gym with the
it was hard editing out the reverse bands, but
the transparent reverse bands. Yeah. All right, guys, have a good one, man. We'll see you guys.
All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.